Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Eva, and here on this channel, we talk about soul remembrance, connecting to the divine, and creating with your soul in your business and in your life. Connecting to that core essence of you and experiencing spirituality in your own unique way, because it is a personal journey. Today on this episode, I want to talk about what the difference is, from my perspective, between spirituality and religion, because I do believe that there is a difference between these two, and I would like to share my observations and journey, and hopefully this helps clear some things up, because on social media, I have noticed that anytime you mention spirituality, a lot of people who are religious will actually think you're talking about religion. And so I think it's time to show some distinctions between those two and just give some food for thought. So also, I just want to share some context before we dive into this, just so you know my background and where I'm coming from. So I went to Catholic school. I'm not Catholic. I'm actually Orthodox based on my culture. I'm Eastern European. And I grew up in a family that was not religious. So we were not going to church every Sunday. We were going to church every now and then, maybe an Easter, maybe a Christmas, and our Day of the Dead, which is called Zadushnica. Now looking back, I have a lot of gratitude that I didn't grow up in a religious household, because that gave me the space to create my own beliefs around my connection to the divine. And when I say the divine, you can substitute that word with God, source, creator, universe, whatever resonates for you. But I'm just going to say the divine from now on. So I went to Catholic school between 4th and 8th grade. So I was also exposed to the Catholic faith. And there I did have to go to Mass every single week, as that was part of going to Catholic school. So I was going to the Masses because I needed to, but I wasn't really connecting to the scriptures that were being shared. And there was a lot also that I would see as a kid, people who were other religions. I think some family friends we had were from like a evangelical branch of Christianity, and they really hated the Catholics. So I just saw a lot of different examples growing up, and I wasn't exposed to any of the Eastern philosophies until high school. So in high school, I had my first encounter with Buddhism during my world history class. And I remember this moment where we were learning about Buddhism, and my teacher mentioned reincarnation. And something about that just felt so true to me on a deep level. I just instantly felt like that was truth to me in my body and in my being. And I was not connected to my intuition and soul yet, and I hadn't done the deep inner work yet. But that was one of those breadcrumb moments where I could really feel what was actually true for me. And there was something about this whole reincarnation thing that was really fascinating. So I had a friend who mentioned this book, Many Lives, Many Masters, and I ended up reading this book and believing even more about reincarnation and having past lives, and got really curious about this mystical side of spirituality. And I did also really resonate with more of a shamanic approach, connecting to the earth and the elements and our energy centers as well. So I started off my spiritual awakening with Reiki, which is a very common modality, kind of like, I call it like a gateway modality. Okay, so before we continue on, I just want to give a definition, again, from my perspective, of what someone who is spiritual versus someone who is religious. What's the difference between those two? Someone who is religious, I would say, are part of a church community. Now, whether that person is going to that congregation because of the community or because they believe in the scripture or they feel that connection to God through the activities and have that sense of spiritual fulfillment, then they identify with that specific religion and belief system. Someone who is spiritual, in my eyes, is someone who is maybe not connecting to the divine through a one set of beliefs or one approach. For instance, I have blended my approach. That's why I say I'm more spiritual versus religious, because I'm not really following the set beliefs and approach that any one religion is setting out. And honestly, the more I speak to people that are super religious, I feel like the propaganda of separation is so present there. And I think that spirituality gives more flexibility to really allow yourself to believe in whatever feels true for you, connect in whatever way feels true for you. There's some religious people that are so strong in their beliefs that feel that their way is the way, and they are very closed off to any other approaches. And they feel like if you don't follow the rules that they are taught in their religion, that you are going to have a hard time in the afterlife. And there's also some spiritual people that I've encountered, and I have honestly been one in the beginning of my journey, who are in their spiritual egos and feel superior because they see the world as more of the energy approach, and they feel like they understand more. I will say that on the spiritual side, I find people tend to be more accepting and open-minded of other people's beliefs. Again, I'm not trying to make any blanket statements, because you're always going to have a blend in every single group. There's never going to be all the people that identify as this are this way. There's always going to be nuances. There's always going to be people who are open, people who are closed in each group. However, the thing that I like about spirituality versus religion is it feels more open. It feels more customizable to me. And for instance, what I have been able to do is I work with deities, I work with angels, I work with my spirit team, I work with my own soul, I work with source. I don't feel limited, and I also believe that my connection is within me, that my connection exists here, that I can have it whether I'm out in nature or whether I'm in my home or whether I am driving in my car. There's no set rules of what I should or shouldn't be doing. It's me navigating and exploring what it looks like every step of the way. And it has evolved as I have lived more of my experience and seen more and have more experience to actually look at, to identify what is it that I truly believe. And one of the reasons why I think I stayed away from religion is because the whole concept of a God who punishes you just, I don't know, never sat right with me. And I know it's one of the things that a lot of kids will question and get a lot of pushback. A place where there is this sense of hierarchy, that you need this middleman between you and the divine. And usually kids are treated as if they don't know, as if just because they don't have the same amount of years as you, that they're lesser than you, that they need to listen and obey these authority figures. To me, all of that feels like control. It feels like power. It doesn't feel like we are here coexisting and creating harmony with one another. It feels, especially when you get in between like the different religions and everyone is pulling in their direction and saying that their way is the right way, that their God is the true God, and all of this stuff. None of that just ever felt right to me. There is a quote that I love, and I'm not going to say it correctly, but it basically talks about how all of the religions in the world, at the very core essence, when you explore them, the message is the same. The message is love. And so ultimately, the religion should be love, right? I've met spiritual people who were not loving. I have met religious people who are not loving, and vice versa. I've met people who are, like I said, we can't be saying blanket statements for groups of people. However, if you're someone who is maybe questioning or exploring or navigating some weird waters, like maybe things are just not resonating the same. You find yourself in a certain time in your life where you feel like, I wonder what's out there, and I don't know if this feels true for me, then I would really encourage you to explore other approaches and other perspectives. For instance, one of the perspectives that I have really been enjoying recently is learning from the Tao Te Ching, which is from the Chinese. And the book that I'm reading is actually by Dr. Wayne Dyer. It is Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. And it's his interpretation, kind of like a modern interpretation of an ancient text from a philosopher, Lao Tzu. And I feel like the thing that has been missing in a lot of the religions, and why I couldn't really resonate with them, is because they dismiss nature, they dismiss the earth, they dismiss the divine feminine. And I have found that in spiritual spaces that is more talked about. It makes sense that we're talking about divine feminine and divine masculine. It's both of those that are part of creation. I feel deeply connected to the earth, and I believe that she has her own consciousness. And we're here to live in harmony with each other, with the earth, with the animals, with the plants. And so it only makes sense that part of my spirituality and connection would be also through nature and through understanding what life itself even is. And I think that there's a mystery element to life that not many people will talk about. I do find that in the Eastern philosophies, Lao Tzu has talked about it, Dr. Wayne Dyer has talked about it, where there's an element of surrendering. Even when it comes to manifestation, there is a process that we have to surrender what we don't know or what is not part of our role, which is the how and the when of events in our lives. We can set intentions, we can take actions, but ultimately, when, as people say, the stars align, is not up to us, because there's more at play than just our energy. And I just want to share a story that was a really big catalyst for how I was viewing religion versus spirituality, because I felt like spirituality was superior for the longest time. And I had an experience a few years ago with my partner's aunt, who is very Catholic. Catholicism is all she knows. And the experience with her really changed the way that I see people who are religious, and also my understanding of spirituality. And it anchored in this belief that it truly is personal to each person. And it's really important that we respect that. When we encounter someone who is really strong in their beliefs, can we look at them and still respect them without disrespecting what they believe, because that's what it means to be sovereign. It's knowing that you are in charge of yourself. You have responsibility for you and your life, and then everyone else is on their own journey and has responsibility for their life, for their journey, for whatever they want to believe. And we can coexist. We don't have to have the same beliefs in order to coexist, in order to get along, in order to spend time together, in order to love each other. And ultimately, I think the people who are the most open-minded are the ones who truly live that way, who can listen to someone's perspective, a perspective that they might not believe in, but allow that person to have that perspective and also openly share their perspective. We don't have to always be agreeing with each other in order to have a conversation or relationship. And that's what I learned with this experience with my partner's aunt. This was a few years ago, and we were visiting her. Like I said, is very Catholic, and that's all she knows. And she asked my partner whether we were Catholic or if we believed in a higher power. And at first, my partner was going to not even get into that conversation because he knew that, they're very strong in their beliefs, and he just didn't want to get into that with her. But in the moment, he felt like just being open about it. And so he told her, yes, we do believe in a higher power, but it's not the same way that you believe in, the same approach and traditions that you do. And she said, well, you know what? That's okay. Because as long as you feel the connection, that's all that matters. And when I bless you and say these things, like God bless your path and all these phrases, she explained that she does that because that's all she knows. She grew up this way, and this is all she is aware of and has known her whole life. So that's how she practices, and that's what it means to her. And I think it's really beautiful to be able to see, even if the words that the other person is using don't resonate with you, for the longest time, I had a problem with the word God, and I just avoided it and did not even want to say it. And now I don't have a problem with it. And that journey of having acceptance of other people using that word, even if it doesn't resonate for me, part of it was this experience with this aunt, because she showed me that you can still have that love for someone else and that care, and let them know, hey, I might believe this and I might speak in this way, but as long as you have that connection for yourself. Ultimately, I think it was that respect that she showed toward us and allowing us to have those beliefs, that freedom to just choose instead of trying to impose and push her own beliefs onto us. And that was really life-changing for me, because up until then, my perception of really religious people was that they're always going to try to impose their beliefs onto you. And I have just always been very turned off by that. I truly don't have a problem with people believing in God or saints or any of the other stuff. Where I draw the line is when someone starts to impose and they try to convert me to their religion, and they don't respect that I have my own way of connecting to the divine. You can still have conversations with people if both parties are open, which sometimes around this topic is really hard to sense that, especially with family members, but it is possible. And that experience with the aunt definitely showed me that. So what I want to leave you here with today is, what does your relationship to the divine look like? Do you even believe in a higher power? Maybe you don't. But I guess the biggest message that I want to share is that it's your choice and no one else's, for you to navigate what feels true for you And whether that changes or stays the same your whole life is going to be up to you. And I also just want to encourage, if you're someone who is curious to hear other people's perspectives, invite those conversations, but maybe have an agreement ahead of time and let people know, hey, this is where I stand. I know that you might have some different beliefs, but I'd love to have a discussion and explore, what our perceptions are, what is our actual lived experience around this, and why do we believe in these things? Because I've also noticed that a lot of people turn to spirituality and religion in times of need, in times when they feel alone or they're looking for some sense of support. Because if we feel like we're navigating this life alone, it can feel really depressing. It can feel like we're it's just us against the world. And when we feel like we have a sense of support, we're not alone. We have someone who has, whether you believe in ancestors or angels or saints or Guadalupe, Jesus, it doesn't matter who you believe in. I think what relationship to that deity or is. And I think the more that you connect for yourself and don't just take other people's word for it and build that discernment for yourself, then you end up having a deeper connection to the divine.
Hey everyone, Editing Eva here. I just want to hop in and add that ultimately, whatever gives you that sense of sacredness, whether it is looking at a sunset and feeling the awe and wonder of what it feels like to be alive, or you experience a synchronicity, or you receive a message through an animal or an ancestor, or you feel like Source is speaking to you through the work that you're doing, through your career, through other people. The connection that you have is your own. And the most important is that it feels right for you, and only you can determine that. So don't let anyone take that away from you. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. It's your own personal experience.
And that is what I would like to leave you here with today. So thank you so much for tuning in. Again, today we covered religion versus spirituality. And if you're interested in my next video, I'm going to be talking about deeper healing. So going beyond talk therapy and what has actually supported me in doing deeper healing. So I will link that video up here, and until the next video, may you remember your truth and live and create with it.